I'm Dan Olsen. Nice to talk with you guys today. Everybody, there was a bunch of copies of the books. Hopefully, you guys grabbed one. I'm going to be talking with you today. Turn my mic on. I'm going to be talking with you today about how to achieve product market fit, sharing some advice from my book, The Lean Product Playbook. Real quick about my background. I start out with a technical background, and I moved out to the Bay Area a while ago to go to business school at Stanford. And that's where I discovered product management as a career. I said, that's what I want to do. And I asked everybody, where's the best place to learn product management? And they said Intuit. And so I went to Intuit, had a great 5 years there as a product leader. And then I led product management at a couple of startups. Also, when I first did PM, I realized how important UX design was. So I made it a point to go out and learn a lot about UX design. And I tried to maintain my technical background as well, so I code still. And I stumbled into being a product management consultant. And then, because I was ready to do my own startup, I didn't have an idea that I was passionate about. And then after I was consulting with Box actually back in 2007, and then I finally had an idea for my own startup called Your Version, which was a personalized news startup. I did that for 4 years and then went back to consulting. So that's what I do is I help startups in product management. Some of my clients are Facebook, Microsoft, Medallia, One Medical Group. I also am passionate about sharing best practices, so I run a big 5,000 person meetup down in Palo Alto every month. We bring in the top product management and UX design speakers. For those of you in the Bay Area, you should check it out. I'll share the link here. And I'm happy to share my slides with you guys later, and I think they're gonna be including them in the video. I'd love to learn more about your background. You guys could just raise your hand with whatever job fits you the best. Who's an entrepreneur here? Okay. Who's product management? All right, great. Who's design? Marketing, development. So I skipped those. Oh, we got a lot of developers. Cool. Other people. All right, we got a lot of others. What are you guys? Support. I know, right? Support. Yeah. Engineering. Okay. Development. All right. Sorry. Synonym. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Cool. So. Product market fit is, there's a lot of buzzwords out there. Product market fit is one of those buzzwords, and the interesting thing, Mark Andreessen coined that term in 2007, way back in 2007 in a blog post called The Only Thing That Matters. He's the guy that, created Netscape. He's at Andreessen Horowitz now. The funny thing is, if you go and see how people talk about it online, they just talk about it like this simple state of existence. Like, oh, Box succeeded because they had product market fit. Startup Y failed because they did not have product market fit. It's too bad, But they don't actually tell you how to achieve it. And what I see is a lot of people, they learn about lean startup principles, maybe they read the book or they go to a talk or they read a blog post and they get fired up to go do it. And then when they get back to their office or their cube, they're like, I actually don't really know what to do. And the closest analogy that I can think of is it's like when January 1st rolls around, you're like, all right, I'm going to get in better shape. I'm going to start working out more. And you join a gym and you go to Lululemon and you buy all your workout clothes and you show up at the gym and you have no idea what you're doing. So I don't always go to the gym. When I do, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? It's not because you're not motivated. You're incredibly motivated to work out. It's not like you don't know at a high level you need to work out. You just don't know the detailed tactics and exercises that you need to do, right? It's just a similar thing with Lean Startup. Or maybe you're trying to wing it with your buddy. It's pretty dangerous. I wouldn't recommend doing this. So that's why I wrote this book, and that's why it's called The Playbook. And I'm really glad that True bought you guys those copies, which is amazing. So I'm going to, in 90 minutes, share what I can on my advice on how to achieve product market fit. The book is a great resource to go further in depth, and you can pick which chapters you want to go in. But basically, with my kind of technical engineering background, I was like, hey, I want a framework. If I'm going to achieve product market fit, I need a framework and a methodology that I can follow. And after working on so many different products and with so many different teams, this meta pattern started to come together for what are the conditions that need to be true in order to achieve product market fit. And so I created a framework called the product market fit pyramid that I want to walk you through. It has 5 layers, and the idea is each layer ideally builds on the layers beneath it. The bottom 2 layers are the market, basically, and it all starts with the target customer. Whose life are we trying to make better? Who are we trying to solve the pain points for or create value for? And everything kind of falls from there, basically. The next level up is what are their underserved needs? The underserved needs of that customer. And we'll talk more about what underserved means in a little bit. But those 2 are the market. And if you look at any kind of marketing textbook or economics textbook, it'll say a market is a group of people that share a set of common needs. That's what a market is. Now your product I like to represent with 3 different layers. The bottom, the first one is your value proposition. That should hopefully build on the underserved needs layer as far as which customer benefits or needs is our product intended to deliver, and how are we going to do so in a way that's better than what else is out there. Right? This is the essence of product strategy here about how we're doing a differentiated product. The next lever up is feature set. Like, what's the functionality that we're going to build that's going to actually deliver those benefits to the customer? And then UX, user experience. What's the user experience, which is what the customer actually interacts with to use the functionality to get the benefits. And basically, these are all the kind of decisions and hypotheses that you need to make as you're building a product and trying to achieve product market fit. And when you take it this way, it's like the market is what it is, and you're making your decisions up in the top 3 layers. Product market fit just says, hey, how well are the decisions that I'm making up top? How well do they resonate with the market that's out there? And once I had this framework, I realized I could make a process out of this to work through the key assumptions and your key hypotheses and validate them. And I call that the lean product process. And all we do is we start at the bottom, step 1, and we articulate our hypotheses about who we think our target customer is. And then next up is what are their underserved needs? What's our value prop for how we're going to meet those needs in a way that's better? What's our functionality? This is where MVP comes in, by the way, right? We don't want to go and overbuild before we realize we're going in the wrong direction and not building something people want. And then UX design. And then once we have, and I'm a big proponent of you can actually validate and test a lot of your ideas without building or coding, but through using prototypes. And so once you have a UX prototype, it represents kind of all the decisions and assumptions you made up to that point. You can now close the loop, and step 6 is you take that prototype or your live product and you go and you test with the target customers to see where you're at on product market fit. So that's basically the lean product process. I'm going to walk you through that. In the book, there's a chapter on each of these steps, basically, and we'll do some group exercises to kind of bring it to life as well. But this is meant to be an iterative process. You may have heard of the build, measure, learn loop from Lean Startup. I have a modified version that I prefer because I don't think you should start with build, because it's pretty expensive to just start building. You can actually test assumptions before you build. So I think it starts with hypothesizing, designing a way to test your hypotheses, testing them, and then learning, and then iterating from there. So the first step is figuring out who our target customer is. And by the way, I should mention this can be used clearly if you're building a new product, this applies. If you're building a new feature for a product, this applies. It also applies if you're building, say, a V2 product, or even if a product you've never applied these techniques to, you can apply it to really make sure that you're where you want to be with product market fit. And I would just acknowledge, like, if you're building a new product, this may seem pretty like a scary step, like target customer, like, I don't know who it is. It's okay to just start out with some tentative hypothesis because this is all going to be iterative. And steps 1 and 2 are so closely related that as you get more details about step 2, you're going to go back to step 1 and revise and refine who your target customer is. But let me explain why it's so important, why getting clear on the customer is so important. The other day, I was judging some startup competition. And the first questions I asked people, who's your target customer? What are their underserved needs? What's your value prop? And I asked, who's your target customer? And they said, oh, it's millennials. And at first I was like, oh, that's cool. That sounds specific. Then I thought about it, like, wait a minute, there's like a bazillion millennials. They must have some other way to segment their market and be more specific, right? And that happens all the time, whether it's your target customer or like kind of what your product's going to do for people. People often stay at that superficial level that sounds plausible when you say it, but then it doesn't really get into the details of what you need to do. And so same thing with target customer, right? Let's take a need that a lot of us have for, say, transportation within 100 miles of our home. That's kind of at that outer layer of the onion. A lot of us have that need. But once we start looking at that need through the lens of a particular customer or persona, we'll realize that the detailed needs and preferences are quite different. So let's say, for example, on the one hand, we talk to, say, 20 soccer moms. On the other hand, we talk to 20 speed demon guys, and we ask them, hey, can you tell us what's important to you, what matters to you when it comes to transportation? The soccer moms may say things like, well, I'm taking all my kids and their friends and all their gear, so I need to make sure the car's big enough to carry all that. I'm driving my kids around, they're super important to me, so I need to make sure it's safe. And I'm doing a lot of driving, so fuel economy is important to me, right? And if we interviewed the speed demons, they wouldn't care about any of those things. They would care about, like, hey, how fast does the car go? Does it look cool? And it doesn't make me look cool when I'm driving in it, basically, right? And then you end up with very different products as a result. And that's, if you think about all the different shapes and sizes of cars that are out there on the road, the car industry has done a great job of doing this micro-segmentation of different people and designing a car like just for their needs. So anyway, that's why we want to get clear. And personas are a great way to capture your key assumptions. A lot of times they're used later in the design process. A lot of people have had bad experiences with personas as well if they weren't done well. But that's a good way to kind of capture your key assumptions. The next step is, great, once we've gotten clear on at least a hypothesis of who our target customer is what do we think their underserved customer needs are? And I use the word customer needs, benefits, pain points. They're all basically just labels for the same thing, which is like, what is it that is going to create value for the customer? And when you're focused on customer needs, there's an important concept that I found that's very helpful, which is problem space versus solution space. Has anyone here heard of problem space before? No? All right, cool. So let me explain it. Problem space is basically a customer problem, a customer need, or a benefit that you want your product to address, right? It's a well-written product requirement, a well-written user story. Say I had an idea, I was like, I want to make it easy for people to share photos with their friends. That statement is a problem space statement. In contrast, if a solution space is like a specific implementation designed to address that need. If I actually, one of my friends goes and codes an app that does that makes it easy to share photos with your friends, that app is in the solution space. If one of my designer friends comes up with some mock-up for what it could look like, that's in the solution space. So that's the difference. And there's a tendency for people to just kind of barrel right into solution space without getting clear on the problem space. That just happens all the time. I just want to explain that the risk you run there is by not really understanding the problem, you build something and then you realize it's not what people wanted. So what we want to do is get clear on the problem space and then have tight mapping to the solution space. So let me share an example to kind of bring this more to life. When NASA was sending astronauts into space, they knew that the ballpoint pens that we use here on Earth that rely on gravity wouldn't work in space because there's no gravity. So it wasn't NASA, it was actually one of their contractors, Fisher. The head of the Fisher company said, you know what, I think we can invent a pen that will work without gravity. And he spent $1 million of R&D and a lot of time and effort, and he invented a space pen. So I actually have one here. I haven't tried it myself in space. They tell me it right. I'm happy. If anyone works at NASA and wants to send me up there, I'm happy to go up there and check it out. But faced with the same challenge, the Russians gave their cosmonauts pencils. And you can actually get a Russian space pen. It's just a red pencil in a box. It's a joke, right? So why do I tell this story? And by the way, if you go Google this right now, you end up on Snopes, and it'll say this is all an urban legend. It's not an urban legend. What happens is people say that NASA spent the $1 million, but it wasn't NASA, it was Fisher. And in the book, I have the links to all the places that have the true story. But anyway, why do I tell the story? Well, obviously, if both of these are equally good solutions, then the one that didn't take $1 million of R&D effort and all that time is the better solution, right? It's a higher ROI solution. The second reason I tell it is, a lot of people are solution space focused. Even when you're trying to be problem space focused, it's really easy to kind of pollute your problem space thinking with solution space stuff, right? When Fisher said, hey, I think I can invent a pen that writes in space, that wasn't a pure problem space statement. He had some solution space pollution in there. What was the pollution that he had in there? The pen, yeah. Pen is the solution, right? It would have been better if he just said, hey, a way to write in space. Just be a little more vague. That would have been better. And then, what we can do is the 5 whys technique, which comes from the Toyota production system, say, well, why? Why do astronauts need to write in space? Why do you guys think they need to write in space? Take notes and refer to them later, right? That would be an even better way to articulate the requirement, right? Maybe then we come up with some crazy Siri thing. We talk to it and it's like, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that, that kind of stuff. So that's the other thing is, it kind of constrains your solution set when you kind of think that way. And the way that plays out in our feature team discussions is, hey, we just need a drop-down, we just need a wizard, we just need a configurator. Those are all solution space terms, right? It's like, well, why do we need a drop-down? Well, we need to give the customer a way to pick their, destination airport. Well, they'd be better to say it that way. Let's give them a way to select their destination airport. And maybe the drop-down is the best way, but maybe it's not, right? So that happens all the time. Now, at the end of the day, it turns out that the pen meets one requirement that this one doesn't, which is this is flammable, and you don't really want that in your cabin up there, an oxygen-rich cabin. But those are some good lessons to take away from problem space versus solution space. Let's talk about a software example of problem space and solution space. And again, we'll have problem space here on the left and solution space on the right. And the goal is to try to map. And so I worked it into it. One of our key products is TurboTax. Does anyone here use TurboTax this year? All right, cool. So yeah, a lot of people use it. It's a product, so it's in the solution space. It competes with another product in the solution space, TaxCut. And what we want to do is try to map over and say, great, what are the benefits? So for those of you that use TurboTax, what did it do for you? What value did it provide? Why did you use it? Deduction, what about them?
It walks us through every single one of them.
Okay, cool. Great, thanks. Yeah?
Instead of having to look at this complicated government form with 100 different fields, I could just get prompted for the info.
Right.
Next.
Right, cool. Thanks. Yeah?
It's cheaper than hiring a tax lawyer.
Cheaper than hiring a lawyer. Great.
Nice user interface.
Nice user interface. Cool.
One place for storing all of the tax information.
One place for storing our tax return.
He remembers last year's data.
It remembers last year's data, right? Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing about the problem space, it's messy. How am I supposed to make sense of all that stuff you guys just told me? How am I supposed to make sense of that? You guys were all over the map on your feedback, right? It's different reasons. That's the thing about the problem. It's so much easier to be like, can I just go code some tax product? Can I just go code this thing and not worry about what Nick thinks and what this other guy thinks? And you know what I mean? So that's why part of another reason people go in solution-based, it's hard to make sense of it. Why? Because people, you're talking about different needs. Someone's talking about saving money, someone's talking about ease of use, someone's talking about save time. So one reason you get variance in how people say what's valuable to them is they're talking about fundamentally different needs. The second thing is even when they're talking about the same need, they may be talking about different levels of abstraction. They may be talking, like someone said, imports last year's data. Someone else could just be like, hey, it makes my life easier. Those are very different levels of detail. And finally, even when you're at the same level of detail, you guys aren't computers. You're not going to spit out the same ASCII string to me about why you use it. You're just going to be some natural variance in that, right? If I had to come up with some umbrella benefit, it'd be something like, hey, it helps me prepare my taxes or helps me do my taxes. And the other person that helped me appreciate this was Scott Cook, was the founder of Intuit. He used to work at Procter & Gamble, which is a very customer-centric company. And what he loved to do is if he had a group of product managers like this, he'd say, who's the biggest competitor to TurboTax? And everyone would raise their hand, eager beaver, and he'd call on you. And you'd be like, tax cut. And he's like, no, you're wrong. It's pen and paper, because more Americans are doing their taxes with pen and paper. And so that's the other thing is, those market needs, they don't change as quickly as the technologies come and go. The solutions come and go, right? Maybe pen and paper one day, and then TurboTax CD-ROM the next day, and then TurboTax Web the next day, and TurboTax Mobile the next day, and TurboTax Apple Watch the next day. Who knows, right? You don't know, but the need to do your tax, Uncle Sam's been making people file taxes for a long time. In the book, I talk about the same thing with the desire to listen to music on the go. Start out with FM transistor radios, and then the Walkman, and then the Discman, and then the MP3 player, and then the iPod, right? Then we all just listen on our phone. So anyway, what you want to do, though, is preparing my taxes. It's good to have an overall umbrella, but that's too high level like millennials. What we want to do is peel the onion and really brainstorm. This is the fun part with your team, where you get to do divergent thinking and say, great, what are all the different ways we can add value for someone in preparing their taxes? And we can brainstorm a bunch of ideas like, hey, maybe you can check my taxes. Computers are great at math instead of me kind of messing up and doing it by hand. It can file my taxes. Instead of going and printing it out and standing in line at the post office, I can just push a button and file online. Someone mentioned deductions. It can ask me a bunch of questions and find things that I can write off to reduce my tax bill. Maybe it can analyze my return, reduce my audit risk. This is just 4 examples of specific benefits, right? And we're in the problem space, not talking about features, talking about benefits. And the goal is you want to generate as many of these as you can with your team. And you'll notice they're written in a certain kind of template. They all start with the verb, right? Check, file, maximize, reduce. Because it's actually doing, it's an action order because it's doing something for the user, right? And it's also written from the user's perspective. It's my risk, my return, right? So that's kind of a well-written customer benefit statement. It has an action verb and it has a verb, And a lot of times, I know different teams, there's varieties in how they do user stories. Sometimes it'll be like, implement checkbox. Like, that's the opposite of, give these guys a way to do it. So an action verb. And again, we want to peel the onion and come up with as many different ways we can add value as we can. And when you do this, again, the problem space is messy, but you'll start to see patterns where things are kind of related. And I call them like clusters of benefits. So like help me prepare my taxes, reduce my audit risk, check my return. If we use the 5 whys technique on the people and say, well, why is it valuable for it to check your return? We're trying to get the person to kind of go from the specific up to the higher level. It's like a ladder. We call it a benefits ladder. They might say, well, I'm just not good at math, and I don't know these forms, and I don't know the tax laws, so every time I do my return, I just feel scared. I feel anxious and nervous and scared that I'm probably doing it wrong, and they're going to come after me. But with TurboTax, like Nick was saying, just walks me through, and next thing I know, I'm done with my taxes. So that would ladder up to some overall, like, hey, with TurboTax, I feel more empowered or confident in doing my taxes. That would be an emotional benefit. And so that would be the confidence ladder. There could be a whole separate save time ladder, right? Which is, hey, save time preparing, save time filing. And the way you can think about that is if you took a stopwatch the old way and you saw how long it took, and you took a stopwatch the new way, you could quantify the time savings. So that's a whole separate, distinct benefit ladder. And there's a third one for save money, maximize my tax deductions. And so what you want to do is build up this robust problem space definition before you start thinking about features and solutions. You notice I spent all this time talking about TurboTax. I haven't talked about a single feature. I've been talking about what can it do for people. It turns out that TurboTax has a feature mapped solidly to each of these benefits, right? The tax interview wizard, the audit risk analyzer. And if you have a well-named feature with direct mapping to a clear problem, you have the side benefit of just by seeing the name of the feature, you can figure out what it's going to do for you and how it's going to add value for you, right? And so the other things you find sometimes is you find some solutions that don't really map to any problem. Someone just kind of built it, but you're not clear on why. Or you find that there are problems that have no solutions to them. So, all right, so we're going to do our first group exercise here. Hopefully you guys are familiar with divergent versus convergent thinking. If you're not, Divergent thinking is all about brainstorming and creating choices. There's no judgment or evaluation. It's not like, hey, that's a dumb idea. Your goal is to come up with as many ideas as you can. There'll be plenty of time later to evaluate them and kick out the dumb ideas, right? So what we're going to do, are you guys familiar with Airbnb? Cool, so I picked this example because it's something that probably everyone's familiar with. Just partner up with one or two of your neighbors. We're going to form a little group here. Pretend you're the founders of Airbnb. Not today, but back when they were like maybe having their first beer talking about, hey guys, let's start this company. What should we do? Right? Related to travel. Focus on the problem space. You know, even a lot of times when I give all that advice, the first thing I hear from a team is, we need photos. Is photos a solution or a problem? It's a solution, right? And then we could get at what the problem is behind it. But basically with your teams, just, we'll take about 5 minutes or so. Just try to brainstorm as many of these benefits as you can for what Airbnb could do, to help people and create value for customer benefits. Sound good? All right. And let me know if you have any questions. Cool. So let's do this. Each group, maybe give me like two benefits that you had. You guys want to start, Gustavo?
Yeah, provides others feedback on my post or my content.
Okay, cool. What else?
I want to feel like I'm at home.
Yep. Cool. Feel at home. Great. Excellent. That's a great customer benefit. You had action verb in there. Awesome.
What was the first one?
It was just provide feedback on me as a host. So, yeah, you guys?
It's hard to find an affordable place to stay.
Okay. So why would I want that? Well, you said affordable, so save money? Save money, cool. So say action verb, save me money, right? Remember, we're going to use the template of action verb, something about the user, and then, save me money. Cool. Yes? Meet locals. I'm just going to say meet people. I'm going to make it into two. Meet people and have a local experience. Okay, cool. All right, good job, guys. Next team, what we got?
Tell better stories.
Tell better stories, okay. Okay. What else? Yeah.
Flexibility with the venue.
Flexibility of venue. What do you mean by that, Janet?
What you can do.
Okay. Could I call it like variety of room types or variety of accommodations, like just different sizes and different types? Is that okay? Cool, great. So we'll call it variety of room types. Great. Like offer me, I'm kind of leaving out the verb, but offer me a variety of room types. Awesome. What else? Yeah. Yeah, make me money. Hey, wait a minute. Make me money? Who's this for? Who are these for? What's going on? We got two different customers. So that's probably the trick question here is, remember step one is get clear on your target customer. We're going to jump straight into step two with what are their needs? So a lot of times when people do this, they'll end up with, sometimes they realize that and they end up with two lists, one for the renter and one for the landlord. So yeah, good. So we actually have two. So when you do that, you have to do a pyramid for each one, basically, right? Each one has its own pyramid, and then the target customer, like here it's the renter, and over here it's like the landlord, basically. It's not a good pen. But that's what we basically do. So cool. So since we only have 90 minutes, I have to kind of artificially constrain our exercise, so we're only going to talk about renters. But thanks a lot for bringing up that one. That's great. So we're only going to talk about renter benefits. Any other renter benefits? Yeah?
Reliable communication.
Reliable communication, okay. Others?
Tell me exactly what I'm getting.
Okay, great. Cool. I'm not going to write them all down per se, but yeah.
Space close to an event that I'm
Okay, great. I'm going to extract that out and call it variety of locations. Does that sound good? Because it'll end up being about being close to where you want to be, but we'll call it variety of locations. Awesome. Thank you for that one. Yeah?
Guarantee of safety.
Safety. Feel safe. I'm going to use a verb and call it make me feel safe. Excellent. Yeah? Okay, sure. All right. What else?
Privacy.
Privacy, okay. Don't bother me. All right. Cool. Okay. Anyone got anything different? Yeah?
Process payments.
Okay. Yep. Easy. We'll call it easy payment. Hopefully it's easy. Good. Anything else? Yeah. Dispute resolution. Okay, we got a couple lawyers in the audience. That's good. Mediation, dispute resolution. That's good. I'm joking. Cool. All right, what else?
Have a host or tour guide?
What's that? Yeah, have a host, a tour guide. Great, cool. Yeah. Has anyone here used Airbnb? Did they have a cultural experience at all when they did it? Did you experience any local culture? It kind of overlaps with local, but a lot of people say, hey, I wanted to experience the local culture. Did anybody do that before? All right, cool. So I'm going to put experience culture down as another one that comes up. So you can see you guys did a great job. You have so many, and I didn't have a chance to cover all the ones that you came up with, but you came up with a lot of different benefits that we could do, right? Again, it's messy. Like, how do we make sense of this? So what you want to do here is kind of like, what we would do is take the ones that sound similar or related, like we did with the TurboTax example, and kind of put them together and start to sort out, like, what would it be? So feel at home, you know, save me money is different, meet people is distinct, local experience and cultural experiences sound similar. I'm just going to pick one for our interest of time. Experience, culture, variety of room types. So what I'm going to do is I have to, again, constraints. I'm going to pick 6 of these benefits that we're going to carry forward with the rest of the lean product process. And those are going to be save me money, variety of room types, meet people, experience culture, variety of locations, make me feel safe. And what's the other one that we had? Hold on, we got save me money, variety of room types, meet people, experience culture, variety of locations, feel safe. 2, 4, 6. That's it. Those are the 6. So these are good ones too, but I have to artificially constrain us for the exercise. Cool? Well, awesome job. Hopefully that was fun to do. Let's switch back and keep going on our process here. Great. So if you followed my advice, which you guys did, you'll end up brainstorming like dozens of ideas. The next thing that comes up is, great, we can't possibly do all those ideas, so how do we decide which ones to do? How do we prioritize which ones to do? And what we want to do is prioritize on customer value. Well, that then begs the question, great, how do we do that? Well, how do we prioritize on customer value? So when I was at Intuit, I created a framework called importance versus satisfaction, which helps kind of get clearer on, hey, how much customer value can each of these ideas create? So let me explain it real quick. The importance is on the vertical axis, and it has to do with the user need in the problem space. How important is that need? Imagine if I said to Nick, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to save money? On a scale of 1 to 10, how is it important to you to meet people, feel safe? You're going to give me different answers. And if I go and ask someone else, they're going to have different answers and preferences, right? So that's the idea, is how important is the user need that we're talking about to the target customer? So it's in the problem space. The horizontal axis is satisfaction. This has to do with solution space. Great, with how you're traveling today, you know, how you're staying, however you're staying, you know, whether it's a hotel or whatever, where you stay today, how satisfied are you with how well they're doing on saving you money, or a variety of, you know, meeting people, or a variety of locations? So that's the idea. And so you can think about it 2 ways. You can think about this like a rigorous survey, where you ask people to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and you survey thousands of people, and you can get a nice average. Or you can also just think about it as a thinking tool for your team. Hey, low, medium, high. We're not going to get overly rigorous here, but low, medium, high. Do we think this is low, medium, high importance? And do we think people have a low, medium, or high satisfaction, basically? So let's divide it into quadrants so we can talk about this. In the bottom left, we have low importance of user need, and we have low satisfaction with current alternatives. In the bottom right, we have low importance of user need and low and high satisfaction. At the end of the day, both of these are low importance. They're just not worth going after, right? If you're going to be spending your precious time and resources, it's not worth trying to address a low importance need. And people don't do this on purpose. By not going out and talking to customers, they just don't realize that what they thought was going to be important, customers decided wasn't important, basically. In the upper right quadrant, we have high importance of user need, so that's a better situation than having low importance. But we also have high satisfaction with the current alternatives that are out there. This is the definition of a competitive market. Like, you know, yeah, it's an important need, but people are pretty happy with what they've got today. The first example I always think of here is like Google search. You know, it's not like people walk around going, gosh, I can't find anything online. This is not working for me at all, right? You type something in, you may have to modify your search a little bit, but you'll find what you need to look for, right? And you hear people say you need to be 10x better in the competition. This is where you definitely need to be 10x better. I'm not saying you can't go into a competitive market, but you better be like really clear on how you're going to be better or different than who's out there. And it actually turns out, you guys, has anyone here heard of a startup called Cool from several years ago? So there actually was a startup that tried to take on Google in internet search. And lucky for me, they posted all their press releases and how they were going to beat Google like online. So I took them all and I put them in the book as an example of kind of getting clear on your value prop and things like that. So at the end of the day, they turned out to be not so cool. So they failed. But in the upper left now, basically, let's go back up here. This is where we have high importance of user need and we have low satisfaction. This is where opportunities exist. And they may not exist forever because we live in a competitive, innovative, environment where other people are looking for opportunities too, but they do exist. And this is where there's a real opportunity to create customer value because it's really important and people aren't happy with what's out there today. The example I like to mention here is Uber. Uber's done a lot of things right to achieve the level of success that they've done as far as like, executing on their product, marketing and recruiting drivers and things like that. But I think one unspoken reason, especially in the Bay Area, if you're in the Bay Area, if you remember what it was like to take taxis in the Bay Area, you would call a taxi, they may not show up. They may show up late. It's not like New York City where it's kind of like you can just hail one whenever you want. So you can imagine like if you talk to 20 people and say, hey, great, tell me, let's ask about importance first. Hey, how important is it to get to your flight on time at SFO? How important is it to get to your job interview on time? How important is it to get to your date on time? Like whatever it is, it's pretty important to get the most things on time. So high importance. And then, not all cab rides, but if we just asked people and said, hey, your last 5 cab rides, how satisfied were you on a scale of 1 to 10? Did the person, how prompt was the person in showing up? How safe did you feel? How clean was the cab? How polite was the driver? How easy was it to pay? You can imagine some low satisfaction answers on some of those dimensions, basically. And what I like about this framework is it's meant to be a visual framework. So what I'm trying to say is if you have a certain product, this red dot, that addresses user need with that level of importance, with that level of satisfaction, that the area created by that rectangle is kind of a proxy for how much customer value it creates for customers. And if you have another product that addresses a higher importance need with a higher level of satisfaction, it just creates that much more value. And when you look at it this way, you see that basically the opportunity to create customer value is just how much area is there to the right of where we are in the market today with how satisfied people are with how important that need is, basically. And that's why the upper left quadrant offers the biggest opportunity to create customer value. And if you have an existing product, say the green point, or your green point there, you can improve customer value by just, kind of driving it to the right, increasing satisfaction with how well you meet those needs. Now, if this seems kind of conceptual or abstract, let me show you some real data. So this is in the form of where we actually asked thousands of users to rate importance and satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10. For one of the products I worked on had 13 key features. And so for each of those features, we asked users to rate importance and satisfaction, and we plotted them all here. So you can see now there's numbers on the scales up to 100. And each of these points is one of those 13 features. And the number next to it is what the satisfaction was, just so you can kind of see it more easily. The first thing I saw as product manager was this point, 100% importance. And we're doing 98% satisfaction. First thing I thought is, great, we're doing a good job. I'm excited about that. The second thought I had is, great, I don't need to spend any of my precious development resources on that. Let's go find something else that we can work on that's going to create more value. And we have a cluster of, features here. We have this little guy here. But the one that offers the most opportunity to create value is this one, right? It's relatively high importance, relatively low satisfaction. So we use this framework to prioritize and focus on that. And I was excited that after a couple years after I left Intuit, I discovered this book called What Customers Want by Tony Olwick. He also has like a quantitative approach to importance and satisfaction. So if this kind of appeals to you, I would definitely recommend his book. It's not that thick, but he's got a lot of great examples in there. Cool. So let's go back to basically our customer needs that we did, these 6 that we did. I'm going to draw a little importance versus satisfaction on here, get where you guys can all see. And we'll do a Congress-style voice vote. With satisfaction, low, medium, high. Importance, low, medium, high. Okay, cool. I'm going to grab these 6, and we will put them on there. So this is what I mean by using it as a thinking tool for your team, not the rigorous survey way. All right, let's go here. Save money. So low, medium, high. How important is it to save money when you're traveling and staying somewhere? High, I just yell it out. Cool. And so it's high. And then satisfaction. How satisfied are you with your ability to save money when you travel now? Lowish, medium. Okay, low, medium. So I'm going to put it like right there. Very scientifically placed. Okay, cool. When you travel, how important is it to have a large variety of room types? Yell it out. Low, medium, high. Definite medium. Okay, cool. And on satisfaction, low, medium, high? How satisfied are you with the variety of room types that are available today for you? Okay, medium, low, medium, low. All right.
At the time, there were slots in the Airbnb, right? That's where the
Pre-Airbnb.
Sure, pre-Airbnb, sure, yeah. Before the world was as awesome as it was today, yes. Okay. How about feel safe? How important is it to feel safe when you're traveling? Low, medium, high?
High.
Any risky guys in here? No? Okay. Some people are like, yeah, bring it on, man. I take a little danger. Okay. And how satisfied are you with how safe you feel when you travel today? Low, medium, high?
If you're a guy or a girl.
You're right. I didn't want to say it, but you're right. Yeah, that's right. So let's try the guys. How satisfied are you? Okay, how about the women? How safe do you feel? Okay, hi, yeah. So, so I don't know if it played out the way you wanted, but yeah.
It's the 20%.
All right, cool, yeah, exactly. All right, cool. And then how important is it to meet people? Low, medium, high? Okay, single people, how important is it to meet people? Okay, yeah,
I
okay.
think that's developer versus marketing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's great. I can just code a bot to meet. It's all good. All right, cool. And then how satisfied are you with how well you can meet people when you travel today? Low, medium, high? Okay, that's medium. That's definite medium right there. Sounds like. All right, cool. And on this one, it's interesting. So remember we said it's all about the target customer and you need to peel the onion. So we kind of punted. We got clear on renter versus landlord, but within renters, they're like millennials. They're not all the same. You could be male or female. You could be single or married, and maybe that influences, and maybe there are other aspects. You're actually like a business traveler. We start talking about use cases. A business traveler versus like maybe a young college backpacker. You're right. The backpacker is going to care more about which things? Saving money. Meeting people maybe, and the business travelers, their company's paying for it. Do they care as much about saving money? No. Do they care about meeting people? Probably not as much. All right, cool. Let's do the last two. Variety of locations. How important is it to have variety of locations? Low, medium, high? High. And how satisfied are you with the variety of locations that are out there today? Low, medium, high? Okay. All right, something like that. Okay. And last one is experiencing culture. How important is it to experience culture when you travel? High. Any uncultured people that say low?
Medium.
Okay. Developer marketing split? No, okay. And then how about satisfaction? Low, medium, high? How satisfied are you with your ability to experience culture when you travel today? Okay, there's another one like kind of right here. All right. Cool, great. Anyway, so see, and we can use this on your team to kind of get clear, get clarity about it. And this is our hypothesis. We don't know if these are right yet until we go out and talk with people, but that's a way to do it, right? So which one seems to offer the best opportunity? Huh?
Save money.
Who thinks it saved money? Yeah. Remember the upper left, top left quadrant is the one that offers the things? Yeah. So that's the number one. This is the one that's creating the most value. So it's a little complicated. So one is you're evaluating opportunities to create value. The other is which one's creating the most value. So right, this is the biggest one it looks like. And then the next couple would be like, one of these two probably, variety of room types or variety of locations based on what we said. And this would be lower, right? Okay, great. Awesome. Good job. Cool. So we did that. So now that we got clear on our target customer, we brainstormed a bunch of features, we ran them through importance and satisfaction to figure out which are the most underserved. The next thing we need to do is get clear on our value prop. Great. If we're going to help people save money, how are we going to do that in a way that's better than other people? If we're going to help people, have a variety of room types, how are we going to do that, and how are we going to be the best at that, right? And so there's another model. So before I moved out here, I also studied industrial engineering, and I learned about lean manufacturing, and I learned about the Kano models. Anyone heard about the Kano model before? So it's a pretty cool model. It came out of like the quality movement, but you can really apply it for products as well. Let me explain it real quick. So on the horizontal axis, it's trying to show how fully does the product meet the need that we're talking about. From like, hey, the product doesn't meet the need at all, to the product fully meets that need. And then the y-axis is, great, based on how fully the product meets the need, how much satisfaction does that create in the customer from completely dissatisfied to completely satisfied. And if this sounds a little complicated, don't worry. The cool thing about the Kano model is it boils everything down into one of three types of features or benefits. The first is performance benefit or feature. And this is basically more is better, less is worse. Like more of this creates more customer value, less creates less. If we were, say, working on microprocessors and ours was like 20% faster than the other ones, that would be a performance benefit, right? If our car went 20% faster than the other cars, that would be it. Speaking of cars, say we were shopping for a car, and there were two cars, and they were pretty similar. We're like, wow, these look pretty good. But then you suddenly realize that one of the cars had twice the miles per gallon that the other car did, right? All other things being equal, you'd pick that car because miles per gallon or fuel efficiency is kind of a performance benefit for most people. So that's performance. That's pretty straightforward. The second category is must-haves. Now, having a must-have met doesn't make anybody happy. They expect it there. They need it to be there. But not having the must-have makes people unhappy, right? So if we stick with cars, the car example, say I walk into a showroom and I just love the way this car looks. It looks gorgeous. And then I look at the sticker on the window that has all the specs, and I'm reading through the specs. I'm like, wow, this sounds like an amazing, this is the perfect car for me. But then I peek inside and it doesn't have any seat belts. I'm not going to buy it because, I'm going to be worried about dying or getting hurt, right? But if car A has 5 seat belts and car B has 100 seat belts, you don't say car B is 20 times better than car A, right? Once you have 1 seat belt per person, you're checked off, you're flattened out there. So that's must-haves. The third category is delighters. Not having a delighter doesn't cause a problem because people aren't expecting it to be there. But by having a delighter, you can create a lot of positive customer value. So not today, but back when the first cars came out with GPS navigation, it was a delighter. Right? Before that, people were like printing out Google Maps and bringing it with them, or they're getting lost or asking for directions. And then the first couple people that had GPS navigation, they just put in their address, got them from point A to point B, super easy, and it just changed how they drove. But as we know, more and more cars got GPS navigation. TomTom and Garmin came out with their devices, and now we all just use our phones, right, to get around. And it shows that this is not a static picture, it's dynamic, and that these things migrate over time, so that yesterday's delighters become today's performance features, become tomorrow's must-haves. And the pace with which that happens depends on the level of innovation and competition in your space, but it's just something to be mindful of. So what we want to do is use the Kano model to go back to our customer benefits and say, great, which ones of these are must-haves, delighters, performance benefits, and get clear on how are we going to be better than the competition. Which of these are we going to try to be the best at, and what's our plan for being better and different than what's out there. And so what you want to do is just create a simple grid, a table, where you list out, I kept it generic here, but you list out one per row, what is the must-have benefits, 1, 2, 3, what are the performance benefits, what are the delighters for our product category, right? And then the next step you want to do is create a column for each of the key competitors. Right, in this case, I have just listed 2, A and B, and then a column for ourselves. If you do this, maybe like 3 columns, 4, 5, not much more than that because it'll get kind of complicated, but again, we're focused on the benefits. And then the next thing you want to do is score your competitors, right? And if it's something like microprocessor speed, maybe you put in a number like 10 gigahertz. But again, we can use it rigorously or we can use it kind of in a low, medium, high way. That's totally fine too. So we can just say, hey, let's score our competitors on these benefits, low, medium, high. So these are our competitors. They both have the must-have because it's a must-have. We just say, yes, they have that. Competitor A is the best at performance benefit 1. These guys aren't so good at it. Competitor B is the best at performance benefit 2. And these guys aren't so good at it. And they're both so-so at performance benefit 3, and they have a delighter, right? And this is basically the backdrop, upon which we should be making our decisions to understand how we're going to be better or different, right? This is kind of the essence of product strategy. And it's super easy to just say, we're going to be high. We're going to be the best at everything. And when I run this exercise, you'd be some people that just they're tempted to do that. A couple reasons you can't do that. One, you don't have the resources to do it probably, right? You just do not have the resources. You have to focus. Secondly, you will not have a well-positioned product that people will grok and understand. It's just going to be all over the place, right? It's kind of reminds me of like certain companies where the sales team goes out and they're talking to some big prospective clients like, hey, the client's like, hey, is your product going to have feature A? It's like, oh yeah, it'll have feature A. Just sign the check. Yeah, just all good. Okay, cool. All right, hey guys, we got to build feature A. And then you go out and talk to the other one, hey, is it going to have feature B? Oh yeah, it's going to have feature B, don't worry. They say yes to everything. They never say no. Why would they say no? They have a quota. Right? That's the opposite of strategy, right? And I like to quote, Steve Jobs here. So strategy basically means saying no. So here's a great quote from him. People think focus means saying yes to the thing that you've got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. And I think you can just scratch out innovation and also replace it with strategy. Basically, strategy means saying no. That's what strategy is, right? If you're saying yes to everything, you're not being strategic. So what we want to do is go back here and figure out, what are we going all in on and what are we saying no to? So this might be what we do. Is basically, of course we're going to have the must-have. We decided that performance benefit 1, we're not going to be the best. We're not going to try to beat these guys. We're going to be medium at that one. We're going to say no to performance benefit 2 and not worry about that and be kind of low in that one. We're going to try to be the best at performance benefit 3. Maybe we've identified a market segment where that's really valuable to them. Maybe they're underserved. Maybe we have some technology ideas as to how we can provide better levels of satisfaction. And then we have a delighter. At the end of the day, what matters the most from this is what's called your unique differentiators. What are the performance benefits, maybe 1 or 2 max, that you're going to be the best at? And then what are your unique delighters, right? That's what we want to get clear on going into MVP. So that, because otherwise we go into MVP and you build an MVP, it just has must-haves and it has me-too features, and you go and test it, and people are going to go, what? This isn't exciting. This isn't creating value for me, right? So we want to know what this is so that we are clear on our product strategy. All right, so real quick, let's switch back to Airbnb. Who are the competitors for Airbnb? Hotels, yep. Craigslist. VRBO. Crowd surfing. Hallway. Did I hear hallway? Oh, okay. HomeAway. Okay. People get creative, like not sleeping, camping, Red Bull. You know, you can get kind of creative on it. So cool. Was anyone a college student go backpacking and stay in a different kind of place? Hostels, right. Okay, cool. So just to keep it simple, again, I have to constrain us. I'm just going to do hotels and hostels. Okay? We're just going to, because, you know, I'm not saying the other ones don't matter, but we have to keep it simple here. Okay, let me do this real quick. We're going to fill this out together. Good? Okay. And again, Congress-style voice vote. So hotels, low, medium, high on feeling. How safe do you feel when you say hotels? Low, medium, high? High. Agreed. How good are hotels at offering a variety of locations? Low, medium, high? Yeah, medium. Yeah. The way to think about that is like how many physical places do they have? Or also some kind of like density, like how many do they have, right? In hotels, it's pretty good, but like Airbnb these days may have more. So anyway, they don't have a hotel everywhere you want to go, right? Right, okay. How about the variety of room types that hotels offer? Low, medium, high? Low. Okay. How about ability to save money when you stay at a hotel? Low, medium, high? Low. There are budget hotels, right? So I'm going to say low to medium, right? Hotel 6, right? All right, cool. Ability to, having a cultural experience, low, medium, high at a hotel? Low, okay. How about ability to meet people at a hotel, low, medium, high? If you hang out at the bar, it depends, I guess. Okay, cool. All right. How about switch to hostels? How safe do you feel at a hostel? Low, medium, high? Medium. Low, yeah. Okay. How about the variety of we got the danger range. Go, bring it on, I'll stay there. Offer a variety of locations, low, medium, high? Yeah. There are fewer hostels than hotels, right? Probably, yeah, okay. How about the variety of room types at a hostel? You can have this bunk or this bunk. Which one do you want, right? So in hindsight, maybe we need to go make the hotel medium, you guys think, compared to hostels? Sound good? Okay. How about saving money at a hostel? High, that's what they're all about. How about having cultural experiences at a hostel? Yeah, I'd call it maybe medium because it's not like there's a tour guide taking you out, but this just kind of organically happens. How about meeting people? Yeah, because you're sleeping in the same room. Exactly. Okay. All right, cool. All right, cool. So that's what we want to do basically is that backdrop, right? Cool. So now we're going to go to the next group exercise where you're going to partner up with your group again. You have to write this time, guys, okay? And imagine again you're the Airbnb co-founders back in the day, not today. Fill out that grid and just put a high, medium, low. And then the only other thing is if you have more than one, try to get clear on, hey, what as the Airbnb founder, what should my differentiator be? Which one of these should I say we're going to be the best at, right? And basically, if you end up with more than one high in that column, like again, you can't be like high, 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 high. Hey, Dan, we're high on all of them. It's great. You got to rank order. If you have more than one high, you have to pick what's my number 1 high, what's my number 2 high, what's my number 3 high. Okay? All right, so let's go do that for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll report back. All right, guys. Let's try to wrap it up real quick here. Hopefully you had some good discussion. All right. Cool. Hopefully that was a good exercise in talking about this. Let's just do this for each group. Just raise your hand once. We'll see who picked the. Actually, real quick, how many groups had 1 high? Who had 2 highs? Who had 3 highs? Who had 4 highs? No one had 4 highs. Good. Anyone have 5 highs? Okay, good. So you can see some people have 1. Okay, great. For the people that had, for you had high, who had to feel safe as their number 1 high? You one group? Okay, 1 group. Great. We'll put 1 vote for that. Okay. Who had variety of locations as their number 1 high? Just raise, so 1 team, just wait 1 hand per team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe? Okay. How about variety of room types? Who had that as number 1? 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah, 3. Wow. Okay. Who had saved money as number 1? 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys same team? 4. Okay, I got 4. Who have cultural experiences is number 1. The culture groups. All right, 2, here we go. Who had meet people is number 1? Anybody? No, nobody did. Okay, interesting. Got it. Okay. So this is the thing. It's funny because like this is the kind of discussions and debates that happens in your company all the time, right? Hey, should we do this? Should we do that? Right? So we all kind of are going off the same information, but we end up with very different conclusions or hypotheses here, right? So the people that said feel safe, why'd you say feel safe?
Similar to what we discussed on the Kano curve, we look at it as like a must-have.
Yeah. Did anyone else talk about feel safe like a must-have? It feels like a must-have, basically. Great. Okay. Variety locations, variety room types, save money. Got it. Cool. Great. So, and if we go back to this, right? So, save money was the one that offered the biggest opportunity for that group, and then the next one, variety of locations, was right here. So you guys kind of went with that one. Interesting. All right. Cool. Variety of locations. Someone want to share why they thought that was the number 1 thing to focus on? Yeah.
Because if it's not in the right location, then none of the other things matter.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Cool. How about the room types, people? Anyone want to?
There was something that's differentiated, the Airbnb
Yeah.
hotel. So
Okay.
that made it.
Sounds good. How about save money? Yeah. It's funny. Sometimes you run it and people just kind of forget that and just like pick what they want kind of thing. So it's interesting. But yeah, there's no wrong answer there. And how about have cultural experiences? Yeah, that's right. So one of the things that comes up sometimes for rationale is looking across the row and being like, hey, well, there's no highs in this row. So I'm going to go for that row because there's no one strong in that row, right? So you see that with variety of locations, offer room types, and cultural experiences, right? Definitely, those are rows where there's no highs. So yeah. And actually, I don't have time to show it, but I actually have the original Airbnb pitch deck. And it's like 3 slides that I show. And they focused on 2 things, save money and have cultural experiences. And I think basically save money, which one is that, a must-have or performance or delighter? Performance. Anytime it's like you're comparing numbers and we're more or less, it's performance, right? Even number of room types, number of locations, those are all performance, right? So that was their performance benefit. And I think they viewed culture as a delighter. So they went with a 1-2 punch of like, hey, we're going to beat on price and we're going to try to delight with culture, right? Great. Awesome job, guys. All right, let's move on in the process. Oops, okay. Great. Awesome. Next step is basically, they're backwards. Hold on. Let me get here. Great. Next step is, so we've got clear on our value proposition, right? Whatever those things are. Now it's time to get clear on what is our feature set, or what's our MVP? Because we don't want to build everything before we realize whether we're going in the right direction or not. This is where MVP comes in. So unlike product market fit, where people talk about it in a kind of a simplistic manner, MVP is one of these concepts where there are like debates online and people arguing, have violent arguments about this, right? I've seen a post that was titled, "A landing page is an MVP." And I've seen a post that said, "A landing page is not an MVP," right? Because they didn't like it and they were arguing with each other. So anyway, what does an MVP mean to you? Who wants to throw out their definition of it?
Minimal viable product is basically what is the minimum thing we can do that we can provide as a service we can fulfill the need and we can ship.
Okay.
Minimum.
Great. Anyone else? Yeah.
Quickest way to test a hypothesis.
Quickest way to test hypothesis. All right. Cool. Anyone else? All right, cool. Well, what I want to do is cover what I see 2 main mistakes that I see people make when they try to do MVP. The funny thing is it's all about trying to keep your scope small and not having your scope be too big. But even though that's what it's designed for, there's still people that make their MVP too big. And I've had people say, Dan, I've read your book, I totally get it, but here's why my MVP has to have A, B, C, D, E, and F in it, right? So it's like one of these things where you kind of need a fresh perspective, someone else to look at and go, why do you really need this or not? And there's almost always 80-20 at play. You can break things down and trim off something. The other mistake I see people do with MVP, I like to explain with this framework. So this is another pyramid from Aaron Walters. I don't know, he used to be the head of user experience for MailChimp. And MailChimp, when it first came out, was like refreshing because the user interface and user experience was so great compared to the other tools. He wrote a book called Designing for Emotion. And this is a modification of his framework that someone else modified, then I modified. I just want to give those guys props. But it talks about basically thinking about a product in this way. Hey, how functional is the product? How reliable is the product? How usable is the product? And how delightful is the product? And the idea is you color in how much it is for each of those layers, right? If it's fully functional, you would color in the whole layer. And one of the things I like about this framework too is that, about 10, 15 years ago, there was increased awareness on usability and like, hey, let's make sure things are easy to use for people. And that answers the question, can people use your product? But now the discussion has kind of been elevated to more delight. Most people know it needs to be easy to use. And now it's about delight, which is like, do people want to use your product? How do they feel when they use your product, right? So, and when you're doing an MVP, people usually know, hey, we can't possibly color in the whole pyramid with our V1 MVP, so we have to color in a subset. And we're not going to build all the functionality because it's an MVP. But they use MVP as an excuse to do this. So they build a subset of functionality, but they use MVP as an excuse to say, it's okay if it's buggy, it's an MVP. It's okay if it's not easy to use, it's just our MVP. How do you think this tests? When you go out and test this with customers, it doesn't test well, right? Because the bugs get in the way, and the lack of a good user experience gets in the way. So it's true that you only want to build a slice of the pyramid, but what slice you want to build is more like this. So, for whatever subset of functionality you're building, I'm not saying it's going to be the world's perfect MVP. It's got to be reliable enough and usable enough and delightful enough, right? And so this is how I see some people misinterpret or misuse MVP, and then they go, oh, this didn't work out. We got to go back to waterfall and build the whole thing again. Right? So, cool. So anyway, and in the book, I have a lot more advice. There's a whole chapter on how to break things down into feature chunks and plan it out. All right, so once we get clear on our MVP feature set, the next thing is to create a prototype. I don't have a lot of time to get into this. This is where UX design comes in. Yeah?
Just one question. After you have your MVP, how do you propose to expand or try and start expanding? Should you expand like trying to color the pyramid?
Yeah, you go sweep that way, right? The key is then what's the next functionality chunk to add. And in the book, what I do is we continue this, like with the value prop exercise, we had the benefits on the row. That's how we organize our roadmap. We basically have a row for each of the benefits, and then we put out the feature chunks by each of those rows, and we decide, okay, what needs to be in which version. And that's basically how we do it. Yeah, exactly. And we got to be ready the second we test with customers to throw that all out the window and rearrange our plan as we get surprised by things. But prototype this is where UX design comes in, which is really important. As I said, it's not an explicit step in the process, but because it's so important, I added a whole chapter 8, just on UX design and how to kind of create your prototype. Once you have a prototype, you want to test your MVP with customers. You want to get out of the building and actually test it with people, whether it's your live product or your prototype. And again, I have a lot of advice in there on how to conduct user tests in an effective way. I don't have time to cover it today. Probably the biggest advice I would give you is, and it's really easy to learn, is the difference between asking leading questions and non-leading questions. And it's like how you ask the questions really makes a difference in the quality of what you learn in the interviews. If I say, hey, Lex, that was easy to use, wasn't it? No. Pretty much, yeah. So yeah. Most people would not say no, right? So leading is when you put the answer you want in the question. So that's the first thing you want to avoid. The other is closed versus open-ended. I'm like, hey, was that easy to use, Janet? Then I've set you up to say yes or no, pretty much. And let's face it, like doing a user interview is awkward for everybody, so they're going to take the easy way out and go, yes, done, mic drop, done, yes, they're going to just say it, right? But what did you learn, right? It's not about, and it's tough because if it's your product, it's your baby, you're like, I want people to like it. The goal is not to get the highest percentage of people to say, do you like my product? Yes, that's not the goal because you're not learning anything. What I'd rather do is ask an open-ended question. Hey, Janet, could you please tell me what you thought about that? Now you can't just say yes or no. You actually have to stop, think about what you saw, what you liked, and what you did, and then answer back. So you want to answer more kind of essay questions that start with how and why, and not do or did, basically. Let me share an end-to-end case study real quick of applying this process for a real-world project that I did. It was called marketingreport.com. And basically it was a small startup, and they had an existing product, and the CEO had an idea for a new product that he wanted to test out. And it was a small team, me, the CEO, his head of marketing, and a designer. And he wanted to see if there was a business opportunity. And he had limited dev resources. So he said, hey, Dan, we can't afford to code anything. You have to do this all without coding anything. So I was like, great. I love using prototypes to validate things before we code. And the idea was a marketing report that let you control the direct mail. So direct mail is a nice way of saying junk mail, basically. Control what you get, right? So like say I go home tonight, and in the mailbox there's a litter for a coupon for cat litter. Why did I get that? Because in some marketing database somewhere, it thinks that I have a cat, right? And so that was the idea. And the CEO had worked in the credit industry, before. And so if you think of the parallels were like, not today, but years ago, you would apply for a loan or a credit card, and it would go into a black box, and it would come back and say approved or declined, and you have no idea why, right? But over time, they created transparency. You can see, oh, that's because they said I paid that one bill late, even though I didn't. I can fix it, and I can see my credit score. That was the idea here, is like help people kind of get transparency, why they're getting the marketing mail that they're getting, and fix it or make it more relevant to them. That was the general idea, and analogous to a credit kind of report. So the key benefit was basically learn why I receive all the junk mail I receive. That was the best way that they could put it, is hey, we want to give consumers, let them learn why they're getting the junk mail they receive. That was the benefit. And the top feature ideas related to that were basically a marketing report, which was like a credit report, a marketing score, which was like a credit score, and then a marketing profile like it says, hey, you have a cat, you have this, you have that, and things that would basically the marketers would use to target offers to you. So that was the core idea that everyone agreed on. And then one of the executives said, that's great, but I also, in addition to that core idea, I want to test out money-saving offers. Maybe Dan wants to say, you know what, I don't have a cat, but I have a dog. Can I just tell you I have a dog so you can start sending me some dog food coupons and I can save some money on that? So people opting in for relevant offers. He had a theory that maybe people wanted to compare their shopping habits to other people. And because social networking was hot at the time, social networking. It's like pure solution space, right? He's like, no, what's the problem? I don't know, just social networking. And then the other executive didn't care about those at all. What he cared about is, yeah, I care about the main green thing, but maybe we can also see if people just want to reduce the amount of junk mail that they get, just kind of reduce the volume. And then we brainstorm, hey, if we're saving paper, maybe we can make some kind of eco-friendly claim about, hey, we're helping you save trees. So I iterated this to this point, and I said, great, is everyone's idea on the board? And they said yes. And I looked at it and I said, you know what, this is way too big for one MVP or one product concept. So what I did is I said, let's do two. Let's take the core green stuff plus the yellow stuff, and we called it the marketing shield because it's kind of shielding you from junk mail. And we created one prototype for that. And then I said, great, let's take the core green stuff, because again, that's the core, plus the blue stuff, and we'll call that the marketing saver because it's all about you saving money, and we'll create an MVP for that. So we actually had two sets of prototypes with some common functionality. This is an example of of what we actually shared. It's not necessarily super high fidelity. It's a little bit of color, a little bit of font, but nothing too fancy. And then when you clicked in from the landing page, you got to this page that had these little modules. And so this is how we kind of mixed and matched the functionality. Marketing Shield had a module, Compare Your Spending to Others had a module. And when you click Learn More, then it would go to a full page for that feature. So it was about 8 pages that we were testing in our clickable prototype. And I moderated people through the prototype. And here's what the feedback that I got. And I color-coded it. There were a lot of questions and concerns. The test, they didn't go that well, to be honest with you. There's a lot of I don't get it. What is this? This doesn't make sense to me. But here are the results, color-coded green, yellow, red. And green meant that, hey, even though there were questions or concerns, we felt like we had a good handle on them and we could address them. And there was some underlying potential there to really create customer value. And then yellow meant basically there was kind of low appeal, and red meant people didn't like it or didn't get it, just didn't make sense to them. It wasn't appealing to them at all. So the first thing is, I was glad that we got some green. There's no guarantee you're going to get green, especially the first time you run this, right? You might just get all yellow and red and have to iterate from there. The second thing is, remember what the core benefits and features were? Is there any green in the core thing? There's not. So it's thank God we tested something else so we had a chance to find some green. And this happens all the time. People go out with one idea and they start talking to customers. The customer goes, well, I don't really care about that, but let me tell you about this other thing that really is a pain point, right? Slack didn't start out as a messaging app, right? Flickr didn't start out as a photo app. So they experienced something similar where they went out with one thing, and by going out and talking to customers about that, discovered an adjacent opportunity. And then other things like marketing score. Do you guys know what a marketing score is? I don't know what a marketing score is. The people I tested with didn't know what it was. But I know it would have taken a lot of developer effort to develop the algorithms. And by the way, we didn't have the data required. We'd have had to assign some expensive third-party data license API to get the data and all this time and effort. But because nobody liked it, we don't have to do any of that. So it's also not only about finding green, there's a lot of value in finding red, so you don't waste time and resources, right? And so with this result, we basically had to decide. You hear people say you got to pivot. We were here, and we had to decide, are we going to pivot over there to money-saving offers? Or are we going to pivot over here to reduce junk mail, right? And we decided to pivot to reduce junk mail for a few reasons. One is, as I mentioned, they already had an existing product. This was more consistent with their brand. The other thing was money-saving offers. Back to the value prop, it was hard to see how we were going to be better or different. There were so many people already doing money-saving offers. And then thirdly, to do the money-saving offers, you have to go out and do a lot of partnerships and biz dev deals that would have taken a lot of time, to get to market. So for those reasons, we pivoted to junk mail, reducing junk mail. Because we had done zero coding, we had no qualms about just taking our old prototypes and throwing them away and starting from scratch. And what we did is we took like the 6 pages of notes we had from the Shield sessions and made sure we addressed all the questions and concerns that they had. And we pivoted to junk mail freeze. So this was the new mock-up when we iterated once. And whenever you go and talk to customers, you basically peel the onion when you're out there and you learn things you didn't even know, right? So one thing I learned that I didn't know, because I don't do it, is I said, hey, can you tell me when you go and check your mail, what happens? And most of the Shield people are like, well, Dan, let me tell you. I go to my mailbox, I grab my stack of mail, and I go straight to my paper shredder, and I go shred, 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 shred for 5 minutes. And I was like, wow, the mail comes 6 days a week. That's 30 minutes a week. There's 50 weeks. That's 1,500 minutes a year just shredding mail, right? We didn't have save time as a benefit, right? So that was something we didn't know. So then we put it in, spend less time shredding mail. We were able to add a new benefit that we didn't even know about. The other thing is not all junk, we said reduce junk mail. Well, let's peel the onion on that. Not all junk mail is the same. By talking to people about the junk mail, we saw a pattern of certain types of junk mail that people really were more annoying than others for people. Which ones were they? It was the financial related one, cash advance, checks, and pre-approved credit card offers. Well, why was that? Well, a lot of these people just lived in houses where their mailbox wasn't locked, and they were concerned that anybody could reach in there and grab these things and mess up their balance or do identity theft on them or something. So when we learned that, we put that front and center here. And then the second time around, people were like zoned in on that, and you could see them kind of getting upset, like, yeah, I don't like that stuff, yeah, and they were agreeing with it, so it was great. Other things that may seem a little silly, we said save trees. Several people were like, how many trees? We're like, all right, 43 trees right there. Remember, we're going to tell, so we just went through and answered every little question. And the second time around, there were still some questions and concerns, but there were a lot fewer, and the magnitude was a lot smaller. And both times I asked people, hey, would you pay $10 a month for this service? And it's always a little iffy to ask people if they would pay you, if they don't actually have to break out their wallet and pay you. But the first time around, no one was having anything to do with that. Like, no, I wouldn't pay for this. The second time around, what they said is, well, I need a 30-day trial. But if your product does what it said, then I would gladly pay you $10 a month. So that was like a marked difference from the first round. And then the second thing that was really cool is after the test was done, we paid people for their time to come in and talk to us. When the test was all done, it'd be like, great, thanks, Janet. Here's your check for the time that you came in. Almost every single person, after we gave them their check, was like, so is this product live now? Can I go use this product? We're like, no, we're still developing it. It's not quite live yet. They're like, can I give you my phone number? Can I give you my email? Can you ping me when this is out? Because I want to use it. So that was a whole other kind of non-official test that let us know, wow, we really kind of did something here. So I was pretty psyched about that. So, and basically, I just applied the Lean product. We didn't do anything like crazy or magical. We just applied this process that I told you about today. Again, starting out with who's your target customer, what are their underserved needs, using the importance and satisfaction framework, getting clear on your value prop with the Kano model with the must-haves and performance and delighters. What are your unique differentiators? What are you going to be the best at? Making sure you carry that into your feature set, and where we figure out our MVP, we break things down into chunks so we don't overbuild, make sure it has our value prop in there. Applying good UX design to create a prototype that hopefully we can use like a high fidelity, high interactivity. Anyone use InVision here, for example? I didn't get a chance to share some of the tools. Balsamiq is great for clickable wireframes and tappable wireframes. InVision is great for high fidelity, clickable prototypes. Then get out of the building, test with customers, and iterate, right? Going through that hypothesize, design, test, learn loop with the goal of improving product market fit. And I mentioned that I run a big meetup group down in Palo Alto. We have over 5,500 members. I bring in like the top UX design and product management and growth hacking speakers. Our next one is in June 15th. It's at Intuit in Mountain View. Christina Woodkey is excellent design and product expert. She wrote a book called Radical Focus on OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. She, back in the day, wrote a book on information architecture. And she's going to be talking about she's actually writing a new book on teamwork and how to have high-performing teams. And she's going to share some of those, share her advice. And we have dinner there. It's actually in this nice building at Intuit. That's the meetup.com/lean-product if you want to learn more. If you can't make this event, join the group, and you'll find out about other events. We also record all of our speakers and put them up on our YouTube channel as well. I have about 5 minutes here for questions. I'm happy to take some questions. You know, I post all my talks basically at dan-olsen.com. That's me on Twitter. Happy to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. So happy to answer any questions you have in the time that we've got. Yeah.
All the examples you used were consumer facing, which is interesting, and I think it's a similar process for enterprise as well, but I'm wondering what you would do differently with enterprise.
I'm glad you asked that. And yeah, a lot of times I do consumer just so everybody can relate, because if I did networking security software, most people's eyes would glaze over. So yeah, so it's good. It actually isn't that different. The things that come up are, one, actually maybe harder to reach your customers. Like not so much in a startup, but in an established org, the sales team will be like a gatekeeper, like, whoa, 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 you want to do what? You want to go interview these guys? No, 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 no. Don't mess anything up. Don't piss off our customers, right? So sometimes you have to deal with gatekeepers, and some tactics to get around that, or to get customers to opt into like a customer council. And in general, just segmenting your customer base and identifying who are the clients that are the most kind of forward thinking and willing to work with us. Because the carrot that you have to dangle that B2B customer is, hey, you've got the pain point, we're building the feature. Do you want to be involved so that it meets your needs like exactly? Or do you just want to get what we build for someone else? You know what I mean? So that's the carrot, is finding who's going to most want that carrot of working with us on this beta. You know, so that's the carrot you have to dangle. And then it's just, this general process, if you notice what I mentioned, did I mention using A/B testing once this whole time? I didn't. This is a very qualitative process when you're building one-on-ones. Sometimes in large-scale consumer, you can use A/B testing to just kind of roll out a feature. If you have a lot of traffic, you can roll it out to 10%, see what happens. B2B, it's even more qualitative. You have to talk with people, right? And get their feedback on stuff. So that's some advice. Yeah.
Same regarding enterprises, but our product needs to be, like, when you sell it, you cannot sell just one unit. You deploy a whole infrastructure if it's the first time you're deploying it on that city, for instance. So my question is, how can you like iterate on that hypothesis and test if you need to deploy a whole infrastructure, for instance?
That's tough. Yeah, I mean, so in general, if there's a lot of effort required just to kind of get the real product out there, then I would try to be even more creative on ways, how can I test these hypotheses and get even more evidence and confidence before I do it? Like, so really crisp on the value prop and the benefits and making sure that people really understand it. Yeah, that's the only advice I have. I mean, other than like at some point you got to feel like you have enough confidence to try it with the first customer, and then when you try it with the first customer, you're going to learn a lot, right? So, and then the other thing is, as you launch with multiple customers, then you can like start to try to pattern match across them and find, because like when you're in B2B enterprise, you don't want to like build special stuff for each person. You want to kind of have enough. You can start to be like, okay, it's not just this person asking for it. 60% of our customers are asking for it, and finding the multiple wins. Basically, and a book I recommend there is like Jeffrey Moore wrote a book called Crossing the Chasm, and the sequel to that was called Inside the Tornado. I actually recommend Inside the Tornado because he kind of summarizes all of Crossing the Chasm in a few chapters and then moves on. So it's especially relevant for B2B. And how do you, he has this metaphor of like a bowling pin, like 10 pins, and how do you pick the head pin? That's the first vertical or client you go for, and you use them to knock over the next pin, and so on. So I'd recommend that book for some good advice there. Yeah.
I'm curious from your personal experience, especially with consulting, have you encountered a founder or CEO or high-level person who's married to an idea and has taken it so far but hasn't done any initial research to test it? And kind of how do you, especially when you get so far invested into it, it's hard to pull back because you're like, well, we just got to finish it now.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious
Yeah.
if you've encountered that.
I'm lucky that the people that come and ping me are pretty customer centric. It's not going to work. This is a very customer centric approach. Like if someone's more like, hey, I'm the next Steve Jobs and I know what's right and we're just doing what I say and I don't want to get testing or validation, they're probably not going to be a fit. Now, that being said, I know a lot of people work with people that may have some kind of that mentality, or in general execs that think they know what's right. And I just had lunch yesterday at Mind the Product over in the city, and we were having lunch. We were talking about, it's like, hey, it makes sense. Like an executive, his idea is, hey, if we're going to just go with opinions, if you just have an opinion, then we're going to go with my opinion. So the best thing you can do is bring evidence, right? Just, hey, we talked to 10 customers. They don't get it, right? That's one. And then the thing that can happen is they go, well, maybe you just didn't talk to them the right way, right? So then what you can do is try to get buy-in on the methodology. Hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go talk to 10 customers. These are the type of customers. Here's the questions we're gonna ask, right? It's easy after the fact for people to have revisionist history. So anytime you do any of these tests on your hypotheses, you wanna say ahead of time, here's what we're gonna do and here's what we're hoping to see. We hope 6 out of 10 people say they like it. So that afterwards, when you take it out, it's like, well, 4 out of 10 said it. That's pretty good, right, guys? Like, so you want to do it ahead of time. So I think getting buy-in. The other thing is just, sometimes it takes a failure for someone to realize their approach isn't the best approach, right? And sometimes I get brought in. Sometimes like, well, we tried to launch this product twice and it hasn't worked. So we realize we need to do this in a better way. But the only other thing I can mention too is just having that person interact with and compare notes with other people that are taking a different approach and maybe learning from their successes. So, yeah.
I'm curious, when you're testing your hypothesis, what's a good number of people to start with, or what's a good minimum
Yeah.
to kind of be convinced?
Yeah, and I recommend in the book talking to people in what I call a wave of 5 to 8 people at a time, basically, because you want enough that you can start to see some patterns. But not if you start seeing too much. Because what you want to do is talk to 5 to 8, see what the top issues are, and then go fix those things. And then once those are out of the way, you'll find the next set of things, right? So that 5 to 8 tends to be a good number to talk to. So, cool. I think we're out of official time, but I'm happy to hang out down here and answer questions for people if you want to ask them one-on-one. So thanks a lot for your time.